right, turning now to a very difficult story that we're reporting on. Tens of millions of Americans are unemployed because of the coronavirus crisis. And many people are also dealing with another huge challenge: soaring food prices. The nonprofit Feeding America has a network of 200 food banks and 60,000 food programs across the country. They estimate more than 54.3 million people may face hunger because of the pandemic this year, including 18 million children. Only on CBS This Morning, Feeding America CEO Claire Babineaux-Fontenot joins us now from Dallas to talk about this. Good morning to you, Claire.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
So can you describe for our audience, you've said that your organization has never seen anything like this. Describe what it's like right now on the front lines.
Yes. So as you said, we've never seen anything not quite like this. We've seen a significant increase in need and some decrease in supply from some of our traditional sources, and all in the middle of a global health pandemic. So we've had to put in place new protocols to keep the people who need us and the people who are providing those services to them safe. So it's simply unprecedented these times. We just recently engaged in a really extensive research with McKinsey, and what we were able to discover, unfortunately, is that over the course of the next 12 months, our estimate is that there's going to be a 17 billion pound meal need, that our remarkable network of those 200 food banks, 60,000 agency partners around the country, with the help and interventions we've already received, we believe we can fill about 7 billion pounds of that need. That leaves a 10 billion pound gap. That translates into about 8 billion meals that people out there over the course of the next 12 months are going to need. And as you also highlighted, so many of them are going to be children. And there are some other really vulnerable communities that are being inordinately impacted as well. So the need is great, and this has to be an all-in fight. So I'm so glad you're having me to talk about it.
Well, you know, I think a lot of Americans like myself would be astounded to know that this is happening in the United States in 2020, the richest, most powerful country in the world. You mentioned some of the people who would most be impacted by this. Describe others besides the children, of course, who are going to be severely impacted by all of this.
Yeah, if you'll indulge me, I'll talk about the kids for one more moment. So first, ordinarily, without a pandemic, there are about 22 million kids around the country who rely upon free and reduced lunches. For many of those children, the only consistent access to a nutritious meal that they get is at school. So while we try to figure out how to get kids back to school safely, there are children out there who are hungry right now and who need help. Two other communities that are inordinately impacted are communities of color. Not only are communities of color about 2 times more likely to be food insecure, they're also 2 times more likely to suffer from some of the key chronic illnesses that make COVID-19 more lethal. So they're dealing with so many issues right now, making an already vulnerable community even more vulnerable. And then rural America. This is an area that is not often talked about, that I want to make certain that your audience is aware of as well. Of the communities around the country, over 80% of the most food insecure counties in this country are in rural America. So the need is great, it's deep, it cuts across all types of demographics across this country. There's a lot of need, and I think that we're well positioned to help people right now when they need us the most. And I hope that we will.
Claire, I recently had an opportunity to speak to a grassroots organization that is stocking sidewalk refrigerators with free food, and they're also helping the community to become self-sustainable. What programs are you working with to ensure that? Because it's one thing to provide those meals, it's another for these communities to be able to actually feed themselves.
You're absolutely right. I will not, nor will my network, be satisfied to feed an increasingly growing line. We must do some things to address some of the systemic needs that give rise to the line. We want the line to shrink. We want to do a great job with the people who come to us for help. We don't need them to help us, to need us in the way that they do now. So a lot of the work that we do is around interventions. We refer to it as our Empower work. It's work programmatic design that we do, going into communities and helping communities to have microphones to speak for themselves, asking them what do they need, meeting them where they are, and helping them to move forward. That's a lot of the work that we do at Feeding America. During this COVID crisis, one of the benefits, I believe, of investing in the work of Feeding America is that we have a national lens that we can apply. And we ask our food banks and our agencies around the country to assess and give us estimates of where the most acute needs are. And then through the gifting that we're able to provide, or grants that we're able to provide through donations that we receive, we're able to go right where the need is. So we've made inordinate investments in each of these 3 communities that are so fragile right now. So that's hopefully we can continue to do that work with additional investments. You see behind me, feedingamerica.org. That's a great way for your audience to help with this effort by going through feedingamerica.org and making any type of donation that they can. We will then reinvest them in the community. They can also use that website to find a food bank near them. Food banks are spread out across this country, and they're there inside of those communities helping people on the ground. I've had the great privilege during this pandemic of going out and seeing the need and witnessing. I've been out there on the front lines with many of our members, and they're really stepping up to this challenge. I think they should be commended, but as I said, they definitely need help. So right now, we're encouraging Congress, and we ask your audience to also encourage Congress to get back to that negotiating table and to look at some federal interventions that can do some things that we can't.
Yes, well, the work that you are doing, Claire, is so very important, so very vital to the citizens of this country, and we thank you for it. And as you say, people can go to feedingamerica.org for more information. Claire, thank you so much. We appreciate it.